Hi, I'm Alexis,
And I'm Kim.
and this is the Whatcha Watchin podcast. And this week we are talking about Barbie. Now, Kim and I both saw Barbie. We didn't get a chance to see it in screenings because of weird press screening conflicts and stuff, but we both eventually made our way to Barbie, and we are part of the people that brought this movie to $1 billion with our box office money.
We paid this time.
We paid to see it. And honestly, I'm so glad we did because I loved this movie. It might be one of my favorites of the year. Like, so good in every way. Totally enjoyed it. I feel like it's both really, really funny and also really lands emotionally. The messaging is, yeah, it's not like subtle messaging, but it resonates. Performances are great. Everything's great. Kim, how did you feel about Barbie? Because I'm guessing we both are like, yes, this movie's amazing. Everyone go see this movie.
I was stunned because I will say I went on record. I was kind of Team Oppenheimer. I picked Oppenheimer in my press screening because these two movies had to compete for some strange reason. Are they at all related? No. But Barbenheimer, but I digress. So I went into this going, everybody loved it. I wasn't anti Barbie, but I wasn't pro Barbie, but I was like, everybody loves it. So I have to check it out. I'm hearing nothing but good things. By the end of it, I was crying and I'm like, why are tears and enjoyment? And I was in a very quiet screening. I think there was 10 of us, and I was the one laughing the loudest. This was fun. This movie has such a good heart. It comes from such a
Totally.
great place. These performances are perfect. Can we give Ryan Gosling his Oscar nomination now, please? I loved his Ken. I loved all the Kens. Barbie, of course. It's just they caught lightning in a bottle here in a way that shocked the heck out of me. To
Totally
take
agree.
something that is so mercilessly IP driven and find a heart, a message, an interesting, unique story to tell in a way that we have not seen in a while, and we probably will not see. God forbid, now that there's a Mattel cinematic universe coming our way. But this could not have gone over better for me. I was stunned by it, and I was glad to see it was so good.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it's always so funny. Like, it's funny to go see this movie that's very like pro like women and all that, and then be like, but Ryan Gosling though. But he was like phenomenal. Like, that performance
He
is
was.
so
He
good.
was.
He's so funny. That is where, like, that's commitment to the bit in a level that is like really great. So I think
Mm-hmm.
he, like, that's such a standout. He just brings so much to it. I think for me too, like, Margot Robbie is one of those people where like her face really reads, and I think we get distracted because she is so stunningly beautiful, but she is also such a powerhouse actress in terms of like the performances that she does. When she cries, you really feel it, you know? And it's interesting you mentioned crying during this, because there was a bunch of times I'm like, oh, this is this light little comedy about Barbie and it'll be whatever. And I found myself being like, wow,
Mm-hmm.
I'm like surprisingly emotional during this, during a number of scenes. And it's funny where you kind of go like, oh, I'm laughing and everything, and then you realize like, oh, this has hooked me on like a deeper
Mm-hmm.
level as well. And I'm seeing that response like all across social media of people that are just like, you know, women in particular that are going to see this movie and feeling just this insane connection to everything that it's presenting. And not just, obviously like America Ferrera's speech and like the entire thing about how difficult it is to be a woman and what you have to navigate. That's the most like, this is the thesis statement of this movie kind of
Yeah,
part of this.
exactly.
But even just throughout the movie, there's all these things where you kind of just see this vibe of like this women utopia where like everybody's supporting everyone and everybody's happy. And even toward later in the film where they're all kind of together and trying to figure out how to like rally together to save Barbie Land, it's just this weird thing where you feel sort of like, yeah, totally, and you're like
Yeah.
emotional about it, even though you're like, I'm crying in the Barbie movie.
Yeah.
But here we are, I am crying in the Barbie movie. And it's such a bizarre experience where you just are so immersed in the movie that you're just hooked in every way possible.
Both Rhea Perlman scenes. I knew nothing about any of that or any I read very little on this going into it
Same.
beyond the very cut and dry messaging. And I think a lot of critics are underselling this in terms of the message we're seeing. Yes, I mean, of course, there's going to be the girl power messaging. It writes itself. There's going to be, and I'm sure we'll get to this. Everything are, the conservative journalists are writing about. There's all of that. But there's such an underselling of the heart and complexity here. And both of those scenes with Rhea Perlman is the figure that created the woman who
Ruth
created
Handler,
Barbie.
I think, right?
Yeah, Ruth Handler. And it's just, oh my God, I was a mess. And no, I was not. This trailer very much sells this as Barbie land, where Barbie's existential crisis.
Mm-hmm.
And through the power of, I would say, Robbie's performance, Robbie as producer selling this vision, they find just a truly sweet place to go. But you can tell Robbie believes in this project, and she is hitting such heights so quickly. And I don't think we've necessarily seen everywhere she can go yet.
Totally.
She is such an interesting actress to watch, and we don't, because we're so quick to pigeonhole, and I do it myself. She's so gorgeous. Where did we first see her? In The Hot Tub and The Big Short, and The
Wolf of Wall Street.
Street. She's always been the hot girl.
Totally.
And we're seeing her start. She's breaking out of that in a savvy way. And I think that's part of why certain audiences might not necessarily like her.
Yeah.
She's a thinking hot girl. She knows. And I think this is part of why Barbie works so well. She sees your gaze. She accepts your gaze, but she's smarter than your gaze. She is so hot, but she's thinking.
Yeah.
And she is such an intelligent actress, and she's such a powerful actress. I bet we see her. She just needs the right dramatic role that she hasn't quite gotten yet.
Yeah, I think
we see her getting an Oscar in the next 10 years.
Yeah, I think like when you watch something like I, Tonya, like you watch Wolf of Wall Street, and you're kind of like, I mean, it gets overshadowed because like what Leo and Jonah Hill are doing is so insane. But like, her performance in that is so strong as well. And she really does have an emotional range and all that. But she is so almost distractingly beautiful in that movie that it's easy to kind of classify, and this is the hot wife character. And it's like, but she does have a lot of emotional scenes in there. She's got some scenes where she's fighting with Leo that are really good. But you kind of don't like appreciate it as much. And then something like I, Tonya, where you're like, oh, damn, like she really is, she's bringing it and she really can act. And then you see something like this where it's like she's leaning into being so beautiful and using that to then create a more emotional performance. It's really a unique thing to do. And I'm so impressed by her consistently in everything. I feel like, everybody, we are always like, oh, Adam Driver is one of the best actors and so-and-so is one of the best. And it's like, I think we sleep on Margot Robbie because she is so gorgeous that we don't think about, like, she's phenomenally talented and she really brings it in every performance in a way that's like, because she's so pretty, we kind of discount that, but like, she really can bring it,
She's bringing a self-awareness. That's the word I was looking for. And we all, I think back to her in Pan Am. I know some people were talking about that. She has been climbing up so steadily and doing such good work. But yeah, I will admit, I've written her off. She's always just kind of been there, but I think of her as like the studio hot girl. No, she's more than that. And it's really impressive to watch.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you mentioned the sort of conservative backlash, and I feel like backlash is not even the right word here because it's the most predictable behavior you could ever find. But there are a certain sect of men on the internet that are very upset about this Barbie movie. And what's hilarious to me is, first of all, like the shock that a movie might not be made for them, hilarious. Yeah, like,
oh my God.
Like, oh my God, this is a movie that might not be specifically for me, and we have to be shocked by this. And then second of all, the idea that you're going to go see Greta Gerwig's Barbie movie and be completely shocked and horrified and clutching your pearls that there's a feminist message in it is also very hilarious to me. Like, so I just think in a way, it's almost like this is like bait for them, where it's like they just have fallen into, oh, it's a pink movie where it says women and men should be equal. I'm going to throw a tantrum online and make like a 75 tweet thread about how this is the worst thing I've ever seen. And this movie won't stop until we're all gay, and it's just like, what? Like, it's the tantrum level for this movie has been so funny to me. And then on top of that, you have the get woke, go broke crowd. And you go, really? Because it just made $1 billion. So where is your theory now? And it's like, that entire like conservative outrage circle jerk that's been going on has been so funny to me to watch, as like just from an outsider watching these men melt down online over the Barbie movie is just objectively very funny.
Oh my God, it said patriarchy. As I was watching this, and that's kind of what I was hinting at when I said the message was oversimplified. Because at some level, yeah, there's the feminist message in there. And is it intense feminism? No, I don't think it really. It's, some people have said very entry level, very bargain basement feminism level. It's not a high reach.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will say, and all of the conservative tantrums that I have seen have they are fixating on the fact that it's a woman who feels, a message that women should be empowered, women should be able to, reach any level they want, and quote unquote nuclear rage level against men. That's a complete oversimplification of this film that actually it's more humanist, for lack of a better word. That was what I read into it.
It feels like they are going out of their way to miss the point of this movie.
Yeah, they are.
Like,
they are,
and I mean, they are.
That's how they
get. Yeah, that's how they get
want
clicks.
Views.
That's how they get attention. That's how the social media rage machine works. But it's like, are you actively trying to miss the point, or are you just playing the game so your audience will rally behind you and you can get all the engagement? Because I don't see how you could see this movie and watch all the sequences and see what happens like with her and Ken and these different things and walk away from this being like, this movie hates men and thinks men are beneath women. That's not the point of this movie in any way, but it's wild that that's the takeaway. And again, it's like, is it media literacy, or is it like deliberately doing this because that's how clicks happen? That's how retweets happen.
Is not anti-man. It is anti-patriarchy.
Exactly.
This movie shows what patriarchy as a system does to everyone. I mean, perhaps this is just because I studied men's issues in the 1940s and 50s, but this movie is very interested in why Ken would be so drawn to patriarchy. Ken's insecurities, Ken's feelings of inadequacy when faced with the uber together Barbie. Barbie has her own flaws. Barbie's very dismissive of Ken. Ken is structured as a secondary piece to Barbie. A super duper superficial, shallow feminist take on this would be, yes, let Barbie, would have absolutely no problem with that. This film is interested in why Ken would be drawn to this, why Ken would feel like a secondary citizen to it, why he would be interested in patriarchy and positioning himself above in his Mojo Dojo Casa house. I just had to work that in. So it's not pro women to any extent. It's looking at we as people and the dynamics between the genders and the sexes, and we're all better if we're equal. Essentially, it's a very good message. This movie does not have a bad bone in its body. And the fact that people are so desperate for clicks that they're screaming woke, screaming patriarchy, burning Barbie dolls for 45 minutes, it reeks of insecurity.
Yeah.
And just a desperation.
Yeah, I mean, if you can, there's that scene at the end where she's with Ken and she's like, not every night has to be girls' night and stuff. It's like, how can you watch this film and your takeaway is that it hates men. I think so
Right.
much of it too is I think these guys saw the marketing that was she's everything, he's just Ken, and they were like, that's
Yeah.
what the movie's going to be. And it's like, right, but like, did you watch the movie? Like, did you
Right.
pay attention to the movie, or did you see a poster where it says he's just Ken and you're immediately like, oh, this movie hates men, this is an anti-men movie? It's like, it's really not, though, if you
Yes.
pay attention and watch it. And I wonder
Once
about that, you know, like I feel like so much of it is, I wonder how many of the people that are freaking out about it actually watched the movie, and how many people saw the poster and went, and just decided that this was going to be their hill to die on.
once again, it's an example of what the studios and the outside creatives can do. We're seeing this right now with the strikes.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much that goes into a movie, but the outside people are the people who can kill a movie. I mean, this
Mm-hmm.
marketing has worked. It's been great for a certain demographic. The he's just Ken stuff won't die.
Mm-hmm.
But that's such an oversimplification of what this movie is. And really, it's not what this movie is. It
Yeah.
doesn't take into account the messaging. And it's a great buzzword. And it's still, I'm seeing it all over the place on TikTok. It's the thing. But if we're talking about this script and what's representational of this movie, it's not the best fit. And I think you're exactly right.
Yeah.
I think that's what all of them out there are playing into. He's just Ken. And it's like, not,
Yeah. It's like
it's
that's
cute,
one
but it's
element
not
of
it.
it.
Yeah.
Well, and it's like, it's a cute tagline. It's like, you know, you
Mhm.
kind of, you can't really assess a movie on the tagline alone. Like, this is clearly a piece of cute, like cheeky marketing for this. It's a tagline to put on the movie. It's not like the thesis statement of the movie by any means. And so I feel like there's this whole, like, people are printing the monologue on t-shirts and putting it
Mhm.
everywhere and making posters and saying like, this monologue is the piece of this movie that's most important. And we're just completely ignoring that and going, oh, but this movie says he's just Ken, so there you go, it hates men. It's like, it's just, it's like such deliberate missing of the point, and that always
Yeah.
drives me so crazy. And I feel like, you know, we're in a social media culture where it's like deliberate missing of the point, and having a hot take on something that's absolute garbage is how an entire industry grows.
Yeah.
But you just kind of want to be like, right, but could you like maybe examine the movie, like the whole movie, rather than just a couple things from the marketing, and then choose where you're going to get outraged by something and freak out? Like, it's so disappointing to see people that are like film critics, or people that are like, you know, they're not idiots, but they're just playing
Mhm.
this game in a way that feels so disappointing. And it's just like, can we get some media literacy? Can we get some honest journalism and criticism and things like that here, rather than just feeding into let's all scream and rage at each other for clicks? It's
If
so
we
disappointing.
if we scream woke and patriarchy, we'll get clicks from the people who agree with us.
Exactly.
But as I sit here thinking about the whole he's just Ken thing, it's very Ryan Gosling really is the male equivalent of Margot Robbie, just a
Mm-hmm.
few years kind of beyond. He is so unbelievably gorgeous. What do we think of him in The Notebook? That that those beach blonde Paul Walker-ish good looks. He is a very certain type. But he, for the last 10 years, has been going above and beyond to step out of that.
Mm-hmm.
He's not taking a lot of roles. He's taking very calculated roles. He's the nice guys is very not him.
Blade
The
Runner and
Blade Runner. He
Drive.
wants to get dark. He wants the ability to act.
Mm-hmm.
So in tackling this, it's once again we're casting a very self-aware persona on both of these actors, and the
Mm-hmm.
level kind of beyond the good looking. And I'm wondering how much an uncomfortableness, lack of comfort with this level of self-awareness plays into it too.
That could totally be a factor. Yeah, I think about that a lot. I mean, I think, even something like Michael Cera as Alan. I mean, like,
I
that's
loved
also a
Alan.
very like, it's like Michael Cera is the perfect person to
Yeah.
cast in that role. And so it's like all of the casting of this is very like aware, like you said, it's very self-aware, and it's very like intentional, and it's almost like that is part of the joke. That's another layer of the joke, or another layer of the message, or another layer of sort of the storytelling. And it's really just, it's just so like smartly executed. Like everything is really done in a way where it's very intelligent, it's very like clever. And I feel like, you know, there are so many levels you can appreciate this movie. You can appreciate it for like little girls can appreciate this movie. Moms can appreciate this movie. Everyone can appreciate this movie. But then even just from a filmmaking standpoint, it's like these little self-aware choices. I mean, the moment in there when Barbie is crying and saying how she feels ugly, and the Helen Mirren voiceover comes on and says, like,
just gonna say
to the
that.
filmmakers, don't cast Margot Robbie if you want to have a character say that she feels ugly. Like, brilliant. I mean, that's the kind of thing. There's a real awareness to this is a movie, the artificiality, all those things that just elevates it even higher and takes it beyond kind of like, you know, obviously Mattel and marketing and consumerism and all these different things, like that's all parts of it as well. But it's like, it takes it to a level where it's aware of that and it's making a joke of that. It almost reminded me of, you know, in the 90s when we got like the Brady Bunch movie and the Addams Family movie, and those kind of like cheeky takes on something where like the Brady Bunch movie came to my mind immediately while I was watching this. Because it was like, it's very aware of what the Brady Bunch is and how do you fit that in the 90s. And like, that's the joke. And I used to love those two Brady Bunch movies when I was a kid. Those were hilarious. And it's like, I just kind of got that same kind of feel with this, where it's like part of the joke is being aware of that. And I appreciated that so much in this. I was like, man, this feels like the Brady Bunch movie in the best possible way.
I was not a huge Barbie player. The ongoing joke in my house, though, the one Barbie I had, I cut the hair. I was that kid with the weird Barbie. So it's self-aware down to that level. The marker on the face, the Barbie is like, oh, what happened to that? I mean, they're nice when they say play too hard, you know. 10 years ago they would have said that's the Sid, that's the psycho killer kid. But it's I love that you mentioned Brady Bunch movie, because that is very true here. You have to, I envy the Barbie doll fans, the collectors. There's so much, the niche callbacks to the outfits. Midge, I thought what they did with Midge, I thought was a work of genius, because they're really playing into that Barbie fandom. So there's levels of jokes here that you're not necessarily going to get if you're me who had one or two Barbies. But I know people who I'm sure would eat this up. And this is such a complicated script. And we were wondering going into this what Greta Gerwig's image of this would be. You know, Lady Bird, you know, this is niche independent cinema 101 given a budget and support, and it came out, I can't imagine a better way this could have came out.
Yeah, completely agree. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, at the end of the day, we both love this movie. I really want to see it again. I feel bad. I haven't seen Oppenheimer yet, and I really want to go see Barbie again. I know. I was like, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna make my own Barbenheimer day.
At this point, I need to see Oppenheimer again.
But I also feel like what a good time we're having, that both of those movies are doing well and both of them are finding their audience. And I mean, it's depressing because with the strike and with how things are, you know, things are gonna dry up a little bit. But man, what a blaze of glory we have right now to have these two movies that are really successful. And yeah, we're gonna get the Mattel Cinematic Universe, but that'll be down the road. And we don't.
Polly Pocket, directed by Lena Dunham.
Girl, that I saw that and I was like, this is an Onion headline though, right? This can't be real. And it's just like, oh no, like parody has become real life.
I think I retweeted, I said, or Blueskyed it, or whatever the new term is. Hollywood's gonna Hollywood. I mean,
yeah, exactly. It's like, well, you know, it like for now we have this beautiful, lovely moment where we can have like auteur filmmakers making a movie that is their vision, that is
with budget.
Exactly. It's like, yeah, well, it'll turn into horrible franchise nightmare and stuff eventually. down the road. But for now, we can just really appreciate where movies are and what the Barbenheimer phenomenon has done for the box office and for just reinvigorating people to like want to go see movies and all that. It's Barbenheimer might be the best thing that happens to movies all year.
I see 10 years down the road, Mark Webb directing Midge, a doll's story.
It's so true. Like, oh God. Like, but before it gets depressing, we're gonna remember the time when it was really, really good.
It was great for one summer in 2023 for 2 weeks.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I feel like both of us love this movie. We would encourage people to go see it. It's great. And yeah, so I would say, I mean, like, this is kind of a short episode because we both are like, yeah, it's great. Check it out. It's really good. Yeah, exactly.
Endorsement, shining endorsement.
Exactly.
See Oppenheimer too. I loved Oppenheimer. Check them all out.
Go to the movie theater and support these movies because this is the kind of thing we've all been waiting for. We've kind of emerged from the storm of like Marvel slipping downhill and giant blockbusters and Indiana Jones and things that are, $500 million and barely mediocre. And now we have these movies that are really great. So like, please go see them, everyone.
Sometimes the studios can do good things. Every so often.
Every now and then a good movie comes along and you got to support it. And this is the time.
Vote with your wallet.
Exactly. So I will say we both support this movie. We both endorse this movie. It's a great movie and you should totally check it out. And I think that about does it for today. So I will say, if you like this video, give it a like. If you're listening to the podcast, tell a friend about it. Follow us on all the social media channels. We'll put them there. If you're on Bluesky, we're both on Bluesky. So you can find us there. I'll put those links in there too. And yeah, thank you so much for watching or listening, and we will catch you in the next episode.